Look at me not as someone who has never felt pain, but as someone who walked through betrayal and came out reborn. What you do after she cheats defines the kind of man you are about to become. This is not about revenge. This is not about getting her back. This is about taking your power back. So, if she broke your loyalty, listen closely. This is what you must do if she cheats on you. Step 1. Withdraw all access. Not just your affection. When betrayal hits, most men think withdrawing affection is enough. They stop saying, "I love you." They pull back from the sweet texts, the calls, and the small gestures, but they still leave cracks open. Cracks she can crawl back through when guilt hits or loneliness kicks in. But real power isn't in withholding love. It's in withdrawing access, emotional, digital, physical, psychological, all of it. The same way she crossed boundaries to betray you, you now set walls not to punish her, but to protect yourself. If she could disregard your loyalty, you need to reclaim your energy. No explanations, no debates, no drawn-out conversations. Closure doesn't come from her words. It comes from your decision to cut what dishonored you. You can't heal in the same space that poisoned you. Keeping her on your social media, responding to her, just checking on you texts, or letting her see your struggle is not strength. That's self-sabotage dressed in false hope. Don't let her witness your wounds. Don't let her monitor your rebuilding phase. She forfeited the right to see how you rise the moment she chose someone else behind your back. This isn't bitterness. This is boundary. This is choosing your own peace over shared history. She already had access to your loyalty and disrespected it. Don't let her have access to your pain, too. Step 2. Feel it fully, then channel it ruthlessly. When you first find out she cheated, your entire system goes into shock. It's like your chest caves in, your stomach drops, and your mind spins in every direction trying to make sense of what just shattered. Most people around you will tell you to move on quickly, to distract yourself, to find someone new, or to stay busy. But numbing it only delays it. Suppressing pain doesn't erase it. It buries it alive inside of you where it rots your peace slowly and silently. So don't run from the pain. Don't try to fake strength by denying what hurts. Sit with it. Let the silence scream. Let the betrayal sting. Let the memories rewind and hit like waves. Let it break you. Not so you stay broken, but so you can confront everything it brought to the surface. You loved with loyalty. You were all in. You saw a future. And she made a choice that shattered it. So yes, it deserves grief. It deserves rage. It deserves silence, reflection, and maybe even sleepless nights. Let it pass through you not to become a victim, but to become real with yourself. Because what you don't fully feel, you'll unconsciously carry into every room, every woman, and every future you try to build. But once you face it, once you've burned in it, something sacred happens. You start to rise. Not in revenge, not in proving a point, but with clarity, calm fury, and the kind of focus most men never find until they've been deeply wounded. And that's when the shift happens. The pain turns into purpose. The nights you couldn't sleep become the mornings you start working on yourself before the sun's even up. The tears that felt weak now feel like a turning point. You realize you don't need her apology. You need your power. You need a mission. You need to build a version of you that can't be torn down by someone's betrayal again. Use that heartbreak like fuel. Channel it into the gym, into your goals, into your solitude, into your spiritual growth, into your self-mastery. Not to numb what happened, but to rise because it happened. Let the world wonder why you disappeared and came back with sharper eyes, calmer energy, and standards that can't be touched by shallow apologies or temporary pleasure. Step 3. Reclaim your standards, not just your self-esteem. After she cheats, it's easy to get obsessed with feeling good again. You want to rebuild your confidence. Remind yourself that you're valuable, desirable, and worthy of love. While that's important, that's only half the healing. Because self-esteem is about how you feel, but standards are about what you allow. A man who rebuilds only his self-esteem without revisiting his standards is setting himself up to repeat the same heartbreak with a different face. When you reclaim your standards, you're not just reacting to betrayal. You're redefining what you will and will not accept from this moment forward. You stop handing out loyalty like it's unconditional, and you start treating your presence like a privilege. You realize that love is not enough if it's not built on honor. You recognize that chemistry isn't a green flag and history isn't a reason to stay. You remember that beauty can distract, charm can deceive, and words mean nothing without consistency. Reclaiming your standards means you no longer entertain women who confuse attention with affection, who think loyalty is optional, or who treat commitment like a convenience instead of a core value. You stop falling for potential, for promises, and for passion that burns hot but fades fast. You look deeper. You become slower to open up but sharper in what you see. You start checking for character over connection, for alignment over attraction, and for values over vibes. This shift is where you become dangerous, not to others, but to the version of you that tolerated less because you didn't know better. You start curating your circle. You start vetting who gets your time, who earns your trust, and who deserves your energy. You no longer explain or apologize for your standards. You don't beg anyone to meet them. You don't lower them to make someone stay. You hold them high even if it means walking alone. Because now you know it's better to be alone with dignity than loved with disrespect. Once you reclaim your standards, you'll see how many people only stayed because you kept making exceptions that cost you peace. You'll start moving differently, not from bitterness but from awareness. You'll stop being impressed by surface-level connections and start requiring depth, integrity, and emotional safety. Not because you're hard to please, but because you've learned that love without loyalty is just manipulation dressed in desire. Step 4. Never let her disrespect your absence. When she cheated, she already disrespected your presence, your love, your effort, and your belief in her loyalty. That betrayal spoke loud. But what most men don't realize is that the second wave of disrespect often happens after they leave, when they allow their absence to still revolve around her. When you beg for clarity, when you chase closure, when you leave the door open for her to explain what she did, you turn your absence into another space she can trespass. A woman who was willing to lie to your face won't suddenly become honest just because you're in pain. A woman who cheated in silence won't heal you with answers. Don't offer her a front row seat to your emotional collapse. Don't let her see you unravel. Don't hand her the satisfaction of knowing that even in her absence, she still holds control over your thoughts, your days, and your healing. Disappearing physically means nothing if you stay emotionally available. And that's what many men get wrong. They stop talking, but they still post for her to see. They still scroll through her stories. They still hope she'll miss them enough to apologize. That's not absence. That's emotional orbit. That's staying energetically tied to someone who already showed you that your loyalty was disposable to her. If you want to truly protect your worth, you don't just walk away. You go silent with intention. You remove her access. But more than that, you remove your need to be seen by her. You stop explaining because explanations are for people who have the right to understand. She gave that up when she gave someone else what was supposed to be yours. The silence you choose isn't empty. It's sacred. It's the space where you rebuild away from the eyes that watched you break. It's the shield that keeps your healing from being turned into her entertainment. Because when a man goes quiet, not out of pettiness but out of principle, it's not weakness. It's discipline, dignity, and power. You become untouchable when she no longer knows where you are, what you feel, or whether she still affects you. And that's where the shift happens, from broken to unbothered, from rejected to refined. You're no longer playing in her world, waiting to be chosen again. You're choosing yourself, and you're doing it in silence. Let her wonder where your energy went. Let her regret that she couldn't respect your presence. And never, ever let her disrespect your absence. 2. Step 5. Upgrade quietly, not to prove anything. After betrayal, the most tempting reaction is to prove something to her, to others, maybe even to yourself. You want to show that you're unbothered, that you've moved on, that you're winning without her. While that energy can feel powerful at first, it's still rooted in her. She's still the reference point. She still controls the narrative. But real growth doesn't make noise. It doesn't seek an audience. It doesn't ask to be noticed. The strongest upgrade happens in the dark, in silence, without announcements or validation. It's when you stop performing pain and start mastering discipline. It's when you stop looking back and start creating a life that reflects your worth without needing her to witness it. When you upgrade quietly, you're not building yourself up to make her regret. You're doing it because you finally realize what you deserved all along. You're not in a competition with her next chapter. You're in alignment with your own. You don't need her to see your glow up. You need to feel your peace. You need to rebuild a man who no longer breaks when someone leaves. You stop feeding the illusion that her reaction to your healing determines its value. You let go of the need to be seen. Instead, you focus on becoming so solid, so self-contained that recognition no longer tempts you. The gym becomes therapy. The work becomes worship. The solitude becomes sacred. You stop checking who's watching and start checking in with yourself, your habits, your vision, and your peace. Upgrading quietly doesn't mean disappearing from the world. It means moving in it without explaining yourself. It means choosing depth over display. It means doing the uncomfortable, unglamorous work behind closed doors. The healing, the boundaries, the routines, the early mornings, the accountability. It's all part of the upgrade, and none of it needs an audience. When you stop trying to prove something to her, you prove everything to yourself. You no longer need closure because you've created clarity. You no longer want revenge because you've tasted evolution. The version of you that emerges from that kind of silence is untouchable. Not because he's loud, but because he's locked in. Not because he's trying to impress, but because he's done settling for less than his worth. Step 6. Let this be your becoming, not your breaking. There's a moment in every man's life where the pain feels louder than the future. Where everything you planned, everything you trusted, and everything you believed in suddenly feels hollow. That's what betrayal does. Cracks your identity. It shakes the foundation of what you thought love meant. In that moment, it's easy to believe you're broken, that something's wrong with you, that you weren't enough, that you lost something that made you valuable. But that voice, that doubt, that shame, it's not truth. It's trauma. It's the echo of a wound trying to convince you this is the end of your worth. You need to understand this. Being cheated on is not a reflection of your failure. It's a revelation of her character. What she did is not who you are. Her choice is not your definition. This pain is real, but what comes next is power. You can let this moment bury you, or you can let it build you. And not in a loud, dramatic Hollywood comeback kind of way, but in the quiet, gritty, honest kind of way that changes your trajectory forever. Because becoming isn't about revenge. It's not about proving you're better without her. It's not about the rebound, the distractions, or the temporary highs. Becoming is about facing yourself fully. It's about standing in the ruins of what was and deciding you won't let it define you. It's about using this heartbreak as a mirror, not just a wound. A mirror that shows you where you ignored red flags, where you settled out of fear, and where you gave too much without return. Let this be the version of you that finally outgrows the need to be chosen. Let this be where you stop chasing love that costs your dignity. Let this be where you elevate from a man who needs validation to a man who lives with vision. Not the boy who begged to be kept, but the man who now knows his worth can't be mishandled twice. Let the pain sharpen you. Let it sober you. Let it strip away your illusion so you can finally walk with clarity. You don't come back from this the same, and you're not supposed to. You come back wiser, harder to access, slower to trust, but softer in your core because you know what it means to have loved and lost and still choose integrity over bitterness. You're not broken, you're being rebuilt. Not for her, not for anyone else, but for the man you were always meant to become when nothing else was left but you and the truth. If you've been betrayed, let me tell you this, what happened to you does not get to decide who you become. It's not the end of your story. It's the moment the story changes. You don't heal by pretending it didn't hurt. You heal by facing it, by feeling it, and by refusing to let it shrink the man you're meant to be. Walk away with silence, not rage. Upgrade with purpose, not performance. Let her absence remind you of your standards, your strength, and your sacred worth. And above all, let this not be your undoing, but your unfolding. You don't need revenge, you need rebirth. And it starts now.